Hi there, welcome back to our tutorial series on YouTube, proudly sponsored by the O3 Schools JAMB app. Now remember that O3 Schools JAMB app is an app specifically designed for students to help them with whatever examinations that they have coming up. So if you are yet to download the app, please do yourself a favor and download the app as quickly as possible. So for our today's class, the topic is greed and its effects. So in this class, we want to examine greed and the effects of greediness. So very quickly, we define greed as an excessive and selfish desire for more. Greed is defined as an excessive and selfish desire for more, especially of material things. It is an insatiable desire that supersedes a person's moral and spiritual integrity, what have you. So it is that desire that drives them to do anything. They will do whatever it takes to get that which they want. And usually it leads to consequences. In this class, we'll examine some greedy people in the Bible. Examples, we have Ahab, we have Gehazi, there was Achan, Ananias and Sapphira, Judas Iscariot, to mention but a few. So we'll begin with Ahab. The story of Ahab as documented in 1 Kings chapter 21 and 22. So Ahab was the king of Israel and he was married to Jezebel. Married to Jezebel. Now, a particular man, Naboth, had a vineyard next to the king's palace. Now, Ahab went to meet Naboth and he asked for the vineyard in exchange for another vineyard or even money. But Naboth refused to sell or exchange his vineyard for another one because it was his family's inheritance. He didn't want to give it up. Now, this displeased Ahab and he refused to eat. His wife Jezebel asked him for the reason for his sour mood, and he explained to her about Naboth's refusal to sell or give out his vineyard. Jezebel assured him that she would get that vineyard for him. This she did by writing letters to the elders of Israel in Ahab's name. She asked them to proclaim a fast and sit Naboth in a place of honor. They were also to arrange 2 scoundrels before him to bear false witness against him, saying he blasphemed against God, so that he would be taken out and stoned to death. When the elders carried out Jezebel's orders, they informed her, and then she also reported to Ahab, asking him to, go ahead and take possession of the vineyard, since Naboth is now dead. God sent Prophet Elijah to Ahab, telling him that he had murdered and taken possession. Now, for his greediness, the consequences were: 1, dogs would lick Ahab's blood. In the same place where the dogs licked Naboth's blood. Then God would bring calamity on Ahab. Also, his wife would be eaten by dogs. Lastly, God said dogs would eat whoever belongs to Ahab and dies in the city, wild birds will eat those that died in the field. Now, when Ahab heard what Prophet Elijah had to say concerning him from God, he was remorseful. He put on sackcloth and he fasted. God, looking at his remorse, promised that he would not bring the calamity in his days, but in the days of his son. Now, let's see how the consequences of Ahab's greediness came to pass. First, dogs would lick Ahab's blood in the same place where the dogs licked Naboth's blood. So now let's see how the consequences of Ahab's greediness came to play. King Jehoshaphat of Judah paid King Ahab of Israel a visit, and Ahab told him that they should attack or they should go to war with Syria over Ramoth in Gilead. For according to Ahab, the land belonged to them. Now Jehoshaphat asked them to inquire of the Lord before going into battle. Ahab gathered all the prophets, about 400 of them, and they all agreed that God was with them. God would lead them into battle and he would give them the victory. So when Jehoshaphat asked if these were all the prophets, Ahab said there was one left, but he didn't like that one because that prophet always prophesied evil concerning him. And truly, when Micaiah, the last prophet, was sent for, he told Ahab and Jehoshaphat that God had put a lying spirit in the other prophets and he had actually decreed disaster on them. He also said he saw Israel scattered like a sheep without shepherd. Now, instead of Ahab to pay attention to the words of Micaiah, he threw him in prison instead, and he went to war with Syria. Now, while in battle with Syria, a random arrow struck Ahab, and he died, his blood pouring on the chariot he was in. So he was buried in Samaria, and when someone took the chariot to wash, dogs licked his blood from the chariot, just like God had said as a consequence. Then as for his wife Jezebel, after the death of Ahab, God anointed another king of Israel in the person of Jehu. So when Jehu became king of Israel and Jezebel heard he was in Jezreel, she put paint on her face and adorned her head. So she asked Jehu if he had come for peace, and Jehu asked that she be thrown down from the window. That's how she died. And when it was time to bury her, her body could not be found, just her skull, her palms, and her feet. Dogs had eaten her, just like God said. Then we also look at the story of Gehazi in 2 Kings chapter 5. Gehazi was Elisha's servant. So Gehazi was Elisha's servant. Now, there was a certain man, Naaman. Naaman was the commander of the army of the king of Syria. Now, although he was a great and honorable man, he was also leprous. One of their raids to Israel, they came back with a young girl from Israel, and she waited on Naaman's wife. She then told Naaman's wife that Naaman would be healed in Israel. They could heal Naaman in Israel. So when he told the king of Syria sent Naaman with gifts and a letter to the king of Israel asking him to heal Naaman. Now, when the king of Israel saw this, he tore his clothes, thinking that the king of Syria wanted to start a war. But Elisha heard and asked that Naaman be sent to his house. Naaman got to Elisha's house, and Elisha sent a servant to tell Naaman to go wash in the Jordan 7 times. Although Naaman was angry that Elisha didn't come out to meet him and, heal him, perform miracles, all of that, his servants convinced him to do it, and he did as Elisha instructed. He became whole. He returned to Elisha with gifts, but Elisha would not take anything from him. Now, when Gehazi, Elisha's servant, saw this, he ran after Naaman, lied to Naaman that Elisha just received 2 sons of prophets from Ephraim as visitors, and he would like a talent of silver and 2 changes of garments, which Naaman gave to Gehazi, and Gehazi hid them. But Elisha went with him in the spirit. So when Gehazi returned and Elisha asked, "Where did you go?" he denied. He said he didn't go anywhere. But Elisha told him that my spirit went with you and I saw you take those gifts from Naaman. Now, as a consequence of Gehazi's greediness, Naaman's leprosy would cling to Gehazi and his descendants forever. And his descendants. So the consequence of Gehazi's greediness, or the effect rather, was that Naaman's leprosy would cling to not just him, but also his descendants forever. Now we also look at the story of Achan in Joshua chapter 7. Now, when the children of Israel defeated Jericho, God asked them through Joshua not to take anything. They were to consecrate the gold, the silver, the bronze, the iron. They were to consecrate it to God and keep in the treasury of the Lord. But Achan disobeyed and he took some things for himself. This displeased God, and he let the children of Israel be defeated in battle by Ai, a land of very few people. When Joshua cried to God, God revealed to him that someone had taken from the things in Jericho, which he asked them not to. He was to consecrate the people and divide them into tribes. The tribe of Judah was then chosen. The tribe of Judah was chosen and then was divided into clans, where the clan of the Zarhites was chosen. And in the clan of the Zarhites, it was divided into households, and the household of Zabdi was chosen. So in this household, all the men came out one after the other, where Achan was now chosen. He confessed to stealing, 200 shekels of silver, 2 Babylonian garments, a wedge of gold weighing 50 shekels, and he hid them in his tent. All that Achan stole was brought out and burnt. Also, still as a consequence of his greediness, Achan and all that belonged to him, Achan and all his family and possessions were stoned and burnt. So all concerning Achan, his wife, his sons, his daughters, his sheep, his oxen, his donkey, everything was stoned and burnt. Then the anger of the Lord subsided against Israel. So these are examples of some people that were greedy in the Bible, and we see the effect it brought them. Not just them, their family members as well. So greed has lasting consequences. That desire for more, that desire, insatiable desire that you can't control, just wanting to have more and more. Now, these are examples of some people in the Bible who were greedy: Ahab, Gehazi, Achan, and we see the consequences that their greediness caused. Long-lasting effects that didn't just affect them, also affected their family members. So greed is not a good character to have. Now, onto the O3 Schools JAMB app to check out for some questions that have been previously asked on this topic, greed and its effect. Meanwhile, do not forget to like this video, comment if you have any questions. We'll be willing to attend to you, and also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out when we drop new classes. First off, why did you bring this trouble upon us? The Lord brings trouble on you today. What happened to Achan after the statement above by Joshua? A, he was buried alive. B, he was put in chains. C, he was stoned to death. D, he was flogged publicly. The answer becomes he was stoned to death. After Achan confessed to all that he did and stole that caused the Israelites to be defeated in battle, the Israelites stoned him and all of his family members and possessions to death. Then we have another question from 2016. What was the consequence of Gehazi's greed? A, Naaman's leprosy cleaved to him. B, Elisha sent him on exile. C, he was asked to cleanse the temple. D, he became a slave to Naaman. The answer is A, Naaman's leprosy cleaved to him. Another question says, God decided not to bring evil in Ahab's days, but in the days of his son, because Ahab, A, fasted for 40 days, B, returned Naboth's vineyard, C, humbled himself before God, D, asked God for mercy. The answer is C, humbled himself before God. He acknowledged that he had sinned when God sent Elijah to him to tell him about his sin of murdering and taking possession of what did not belong to him. So, and that question we have here is, why is your spirit so vexed that you eat no food? The addressee was sad because A, Naboth refused to give him his vineyard. B, he had an encounter with Elijah. C, his inheritance had been taken away. D, Jezebel refused to speak to him. So this conversation happened between Ahab and his wife, Jezebel. And Ahab was vexed, or he was sad because A, Naboth refused to give him his vineyard. So if you download the O3 Schools JAMB app, you'll get access to many more questions, not just on this topic, but on other topics as well.